to address at least one item. Governor Lee calling this last week and now saying that he wants lawmakers to discuss three things. First, school vouchers, as some call them, other ones education scholarships. That is giving public money to private schoolers in the state of Tennessee to attend private school. That's item number one. Item number two is addressing the state's ability to address illegal immigration along with the feds. The third aspect is going to be relief for Hurricane Helene survivors. Two of those, the first two, private school education and illegal immigration, are two items that are bitterly dividing Nashville as we speak. Something that we have been told to expect probably to pass by today is the Helene relief funding. That actually is expected to just really get passed quickly. We could expect that to happen as early as today. Lawmakers, of course, going to be in session throughout much of the day in committees. Also have House and Senate floor sessions that they expect to really get down to the nitty-gritty of this special session in Nashville. Now, we have been talking with lawmakers throughout this expected special session, the lead up to it, and to this special session we're at now. I talked with Representative Sam McKenzie in Knox County yesterday and Jason Zachary, Democrat and Republican, just to get an idea of what they sort of felt going into this session, specifically when it came to the education freedom scholarships, one of Governor Lee's biggest and top priorities in this election cycle. I asked Zachary directly, does he think the governor has the votes this time as he's tried it several other times? He told me simply, yes, he does think that the governor has the votes this time to get those education scholarships passed. They look very different this time around than they have really the past couple of times. This one specifically, in the first year of those scholarships, it would aim to send 20,000 students to private school with public dollars. After that, it would more or less open up to everyone. As you look across a couple of the other aspects of this special session, that immigration, the illegal immigration aspect of it, is an effort to align the state with the needs of the federal government. Zachary was telling me he spoke with Knox County Sheriff Tom Spangler, and the state has to opt into something that the federal government has asked states to opt into, especially ones led by Republican governors to opt into, in order to allow them to create a pathway to help the federal government take illegal immigrants out of the state, especially those who have committed violent offenses. Actually, Zachary and I were talking about that, and here's what he had to say, and on the backside is the response from Democrats on how they feel about the effort to remove illegal immigrants from the state.
President Trump had asked the Republican governors to go ahead and take that step to make it easier for state officials to work with federal officials to be able to get the illegals that are here, that are criminals, have committed criminal acts while they're in the country, quickly expedite and get them out.
We're going to deal with the criminals, and we're going to get them out of our country. But to try to have some mass deportation, it can't happen in the state of Tennessee without federal law. So this is a federal issue.
So Republicans saying they have to opt into this in order to help the federal government. Meanwhile, McKenzie, the Democrat, saying he believes this is a federal issue and the feds should take this on themselves and not loop in the states into doing this. I actually, a little while ago, was taking a look at the fiscal note attached to this specific bill that would create a division within the Department of Homeland Security in the state of Tennessee, and it's about $5 million in its first year, and then about $500,000 out of the state budget in the subsequent handful of years after that. And so it's just taking a little bit of a look at what this looks like as far as how divided they are in Nashville. Again, if you're just joining us, we're taking a look at the special session that got underway at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 4 Central Time yesterday inside the state capitol, and has now gotten into really the bitterness of it and really the nitty-gritty of it earlier today. I want to direct you now to sort of what we're looking at as far as schedule-wise today. Both the Senate actually got in at about 8:30, 9:30 Eastern Time, and then the House was on the floor at 9 o'clock East Central, 10 Eastern earlier today. And so this is a look at today's calendar and how things really rolled out as the day went on. And so you're looking at here at the 2:30 Eastern Time hour. So the House is in the Education Committee and the Disaster Relief Committee. I would expect this one right here, the Disaster Relief Committee, obviously addressing funding for Helene survivors in the areas impacted hardest by Hurricane Helene. We have been told that indications out of Nashville show that they expect legislation to come as early possibly as today. I asked Jason Zachary if he expected this to be the easiest part of the special session. He laughed and said, yes, I do expect that to be the easiest part of the session. So again, you could see an agreement come out as early as today. There's belief in Nashville that they want to get that done quicker because there's frustration that it took them 4 months to get to a special session to get that done in Nashville. 3:30 Eastern Time, the Senate Education Committee meets. There they again will address the school vouchers or the Education Freedom Scholarships. 5:30 Eastern Time, Finance, Ways and Means Committee. They're going to look at all of the bills that have come down, about 7 of them at last check, and how much that's going to cost. And then Transportation Committee will meet at 5:30 also. Again, House has a lot more work to be done than the Senate does. The Senate only meeting, what does it look like? 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times today, while the House has several others themselves. As you get into your Wednesday calendar, this is a look at what Wednesday looks like. Immigration Committee of the Extraordinary Session, that was created specifically for this session. You hadn't had an Immigration Committee before. Finance, Ways and Means, House Calendar and Rules Committee, so this would mean anything else that drops, they would look at it in there. Then the Senate's going to meet, and then the House has a floor session late tomorrow night at 9. You could look at that as early, and then you have floor sessions on Thursday morning. Again, the expectation is that this would last about 3 days, at least 3 days. So if they get to that Thursday session of those both House and floor meetings, you could see it dropping as quickly as that. But again, you're expected to see Helene, most likely bills come down today. They could be voted on as early as tonight when the floor session gets underway. If they have another one, currently they don't have one. That could change, or they might vote on it as early as tomorrow. The other 2 topics, however, are going to be the ones where there's a bit more battle on. The immigration, relatively cut and dry. They're going to have to create a new division within the Department of Homeland Security, hire a couple positions right now. The fiscal note that I read earlier this morning, it creates 4 positions. The highest paid of that position just shy of about $200,000 a year. The lowest at about $60,000 a year. That would cost $5 million in its first year, and that would come directly out of the state budget. And then its second year would cost just a little more than $500,000, or actually probably, I think it was a little less than $500,000 in that 400 range, in between $400,000 and $600,000 a year in every subsequent year. Democrats we spoke with say they don't think that's something that the state government should be worried about, should be tied into, while Republicans that we spoke with actually tell me, they're like, we have to do this, we have to signal to the federal government that we want to opt into this. And so that's something, again, that they're working out in Nashville right now. The third and final point, really the biggest point of this, is the governor's effort and his biggest push to try and get funding for school vouchers. Some will call it, others will call it Education Freedom Scholarships. That's the idea that they'll give public money to private school children and private families who want to send their children to private school. That will now be your biggest cut down or your biggest battle in Nashville. Let's hear Jason Zachary on his take on the Education Freedom Scholarships when I spoke with him yesterday.
That's just part of the initiative of the Republican Party. But I think a couple of years have passed. We had the Go at ESAs a couple of years ago, and now we're looking at more education scholarships. Even you use the term vouchers. So these are more scholarships than vouchers because no money is being taken out of public education. So it's a different way to try and offer options to parents so they can choose the best educational outcomes for their kids.
Republicans again saying this bill is different than what it has been in the years past. And so they say that by taking a different approach, they believe that the governor has the votes this time around to get it across the finish line. But however, Democrats are firmly against this. They do not think that this is the right direction for the state. They feel that the money that they're using, even though Republicans say it will not affect public school, Democrats meanwhile saying they worry that no matter how this works its way out, it is going to affect public schools. Let's listen to the Dems' take on it.
This is just a bad bill for Tennesseans. This is not going to help anyone in a failing school unless they can play football or can tumble. This does not assist. This creates two separate school systems, and it sorely defunds the public school system.
Again, right now, as the bill is written, Republicans say that it would not impact local school districts. They're saying the money formula is completely different than it has been set up in the past. And so it's something, again, of tug and pull, if you will, of all Democrats, and actually some Republicans in Nashville still do not back the school voucher or the Education Freedom Scholarship Plan, while other Republicans in the state capitol believe the governor now has the votes, as he has not in the past, to get this across the finish line. Again, this is something that we are continuing to keep an eye on for you today in Nashville. A lot of committees meeting right now between the House and the Senate. We could see funding for Hurricane Helene relief, taking away a little bit of the red tape, pumping more state dollars into how that is being handled. All of that in a couple of bills that are coming down today. Again, lawmakers taking a look at 7 separate bills, all of them dealing with illegal immigration, education freedom scholarships, and Hurricane Helene relief funding. We'll keep an eye on this. I'll go dig into it some more. We'll start your coverage on special session tonight on WVLT News at 5 o'clock. In the meantime, WVLT News continues inside the WVLT News app, of course, right here on Facebook and all of our streaming apps, and at 3:30 on WVLT News. We'll catch y'all there then.